Hey, it's Ruby. It is a new month, which means we have to go through all the books that I read in the month of March. Grab a snack, grab a drink, let's chat. I'm going to share with you my reading journal and then go through every book that I read. So in the month of March, I read 9 books, which usually I read 10. That's kind of what I average, but I read 9. I am almost done with the 10th one. I need a couple chapters, but I didn't include it in this because the ending is important. And because I don't have a rating yet, I didn't include it, but you'll see it in April. Anyway, like I said, I read 9 books, which was 3,657 pages, an average star rating of 3.5. So really mid-month, but at least I had a 5-star. I had 1 5-star, which I didn't have any last month, so I'm happy about that. And I also had no DNFs, which was good. I almost had a DNF. It should have been a DNF, but because the book was so short, I pushed through. We'll talk about it. I read 5 physical books, 1 ebook, and 3 audiobooks, which is surprising to me because usually audiobooks is what I do the most, but it was different this month. But let's start off with the first book that I read in the month, which was A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch by Sarah Hawley. This is book 2 in that universe. I think it's called Glimmer Falls. Book 1 being A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, which I liked more. Honestly, A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch, I just didn't love. I thought it was very mid. The story was not as good as the first book. I definitely enjoyed the first book more. I was a little upset because the characters in this, Kaladia and Astaroth, I thought I was gonna like a lot more because in book 1 they were really cool. Like Kaladia was really feisty and fiery, and Astaroth was like really posh and just really sure of himself, and they still were in this book, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel it. I didn't feel the chemistry. I didn't feel any giddiness. I was very much just trying to get through it. So all in all, I gave it a generous 3 stars. I definitely don't regret reading it, but it's not something that I'm ever gonna think about again, and I'm not gonna purchase it or anything because it wasn't that good to me. Next up, I read Ruthless Vows, which is book 2 and the conclusion of the Divine Rivals duology. What is it called? Letters of Enchantment duology by Rebecca Ross. I have decided that she's not for me, and I even parted with my copies. If you follow me, you know that I had the beautiful UK editions, and I considered keeping them just because they're so pretty, but I'm being very ruthless with my shelves, and I just want to have books that I absolutely love, so I got rid of them. I sold them on Pango. New owner already has them, and so yeah, I did like Ruthless Vows more than Divine Rivals. I didn't love Divine Rivals, not because it was bad, but because it was marketed as a romantasy, and really it read like a historical fiction or a historical romance, even though it was set in a fictional world, but it just very much didn't feel fantastical at all, and that's why I had given it 3 stars. This one very much gave us fantasy. There were the gods, there was the creatures, the like wyvern looking creatures, the hellhounds. It definitely gave us more of the magic, but it just really wasn't that special. Like the love aspect, which I feel was the best part of the duology, wasn't as prominent as the first book, and the fantastical bits in this just really didn't hit. Like it was very much a very tame, chill book, and if that's what you're looking for, then I think you would love it. But for me, I was just looking for more if that makes any sense. Again, I do think Rebecca Ross is really talented as a writer. She's just not for me, and I made up my mind that I won't read any more of her books just because I just don't end up loving them. I like them, but there's just so many books out there. However, if you love Divine Rivals, then I do recommend it. It was good, it just wasn't great. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, which is a good rating. It just is not something that I'm ever going to reread or probably think about much, if I'm being honest, which is unfortunate. Next up, I read a book that I have previously read, but I don't even remember when I read it. It was a while back, and I couldn't remember much about it other than It had fake dating, which is my number one favorite romance trope. I love fake dating. So I wanted to read it again because everybody seems to hate this book. Everybody talks so much trash about this book. So I wanted to reread it to see what it is that I can't remember, why people hate this. And it is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Listen, I read this and did I think it was the most perfect romance? No. But I was entertained. I had a good time. I don't understand why people hate this so much. It could be that I just am not too critical with books in general, but romances specifically. But I liked it. I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was great, but I really liked the fake dating aspect. I liked the characters. I liked the interactions with her family. I ended up giving this 3 stars, so a very mid rating, but also a good rating. I don't know. I might be in the minority. I know I'm in the minority, but I just didn't hate this the way that everybody else seems to. And I can't see myself rereading it when I want just a trashy romance, a good time. I don't know. I can't hate it. You know what I mean? Like, it was entertaining. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. A silly rom-com type of book. Yes, the dialogue was a little cringy sometimes, but I feel like a lot of these books have cringy dialogue and I'm okay with it. So I don't regret it. 3 stars. So I was doing a reading vlog where I was finishing duologies and I only ended up finishing 2 on video, which was Ruthless Vows and then I think The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. But I also finished All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. And I didn't talk about it because I just didn't have time to finish it on video. But I ended up reading the first book and it really was enjoyable. It is a YA fantasy and I really liked it. It had an interesting magic system. It had a large cast of characters, which I think is unique for a YA fantasy. We have 4 points of view in these books and I don't know, I really liked the first one. It was fun. There was like a tournament, a magical tournament, which you all know I'm a sucker for. And I really liked it. My favorite characters were Alistair and Gavin. And so I decided to finish off the duology with All of Our Demise. And it was okay. But I felt like it was kind of the same of the first book, if that makes sense. So the conflict and the resolution were okay, but it was nothing special. I still ended up loving Alistair and Gavin the most, even more. But I just feel like it was a little young for me, which is understandable because these are YA fantasy books. And because they are not meant for me, they are not meant for my age group, I do give them grace. But I do think that it's good for someone that is in the age group to start delving into fantasy, especially if they end up becoming like high fantasy readers, because there's a story, there's magic, there's a large cast of characters for something that's YA to have 4 POVs. That's pretty good, but it's written really easy. Like, it's not anything complicated. You can get through these really easy. So I think it's a good YA duology for someone that is maybe new to fantasy and just wants to kind of start delving into like high fantasy. It's a good intro. All in all, it was a pretty good book. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I gave the first one 4 stars. But like I said, I was very pleasantly surprised by these because I had them on my on-haul shelf and I ended up enjoying them. So after reading those duologies and just not really loving anything, I was afraid I was going to fall into a reading slump. So I wanted to do something about it, and I started another reading vlog where I looked for a 5-star read. And I purposely tried to choose things that were very different from each other just to avoid the reading slump, to keep things interesting. I went on Goodreads and I made sure that all the books that I chose were well above 4 stars, and it was pretty successful. So first up, I started with Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is an adult paranormal romance and definitely very different from her STEM books. But I was intrigued because a lot of people have been talking about this on TikTok. Some people loving it, some people hating it. I really liked it. I had a really fun time. I flew through this book. It was such an easy read, and I have so many thoughts that I discussed on that reading vlog. But I really like that the like smut, the like romance didn't really start till the latter half of the book. We did have like a conflict. We did have something to figure out. I really like the characters. I like them all. I didn't really get annoyed by anybody, which is always a plus in romance, for me at least, because usually like someone's gonna annoy me. But I really thought this was fun. I thought the main character Misery was really funny. I liked the little girl in the book, which I never really liked the children in the books, but I liked the little girl in this. She was cute. So all in all, I felt like it was a pretty good book. We have a vampire and a werewolf entering a marriage of convenience, and there's politics, there's different things, everything on the like light side because this is still a romance. But honestly, I had a good time and I do not regret reading this. I'm doing an Ali Hazelwood like ranking video. I'm trying to read all her books so that I can rank them all, but I still think that this is probably going to be somewhere on the like upper half of the ranking. And I actually ended up giving this 4.5 stars. So obviously I really liked it. It was fun. It was quick. It was just what I needed to keep me out of a reading slump. Also in that reading vlog, I had my second book, which was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is completely out of my comfort zone because this is a sci-fi book, but it really read, I described it as a cozy sci-fi thriller, and I stand by that. And thrillers are really not my thing. Like, I don't really read a lot of thrillers. I don't really love a lot of thrillers. And this is a sci-fi book, but it was pretty thrilling. Like, we are in space for most of the book. And this we follow Ryland, who is a scientist turned middle school science teacher, and we find out that the Earth is in trouble because the sun is dimming, and we know why it's dimming, we know how it's dimming, we just don't know how to fix the problem. So literally the whole world comes together to try and save humanity, to try and save the sun and by extension Earth. So Project Hail Mary comes to be, and our main character finds himself in space, not remembering who he is, not remembering what he's meant to do. He doesn't know anything, total amnesia. So it's really interesting. This book utilizes flashbacks in a really cool way. I really liked it. I cannot believe that I liked it as much as I did. But I ended up giving it 5 stars. And I now see why everybody was putting this book in their top books of 2023. It's good. I love the characters. I was smiling. It was really good. If you have not read it, give it a chance. Even if you're not a sci-fi girl, give it a chance because it was actually really good. And definitely check out that reading vlog because I kind of talk about it more in detail and point out things that you might like and that you might not like. So check that one out. I ended that reading vlog with Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which this was our YA contemporary romance pick. So very different from adult paranormal romance. And for like 75%, maybe 80% of this book, I was giddy. If you watched the vlog, you saw that I was like smiling. I was talking about it. I was swooning. I was obsessed with it. I flew through it. And then the last bit of the book kind of put a damper on things. I knocked it down a star. I just didn't love the end because the main character kind of annoyed me. But this is YA, so it is not intended for a 34-year-old. So I give it grace, but it was really good. Like, I will reread this. I know I will, because for most of the book, I was just so giddy and just feeling all the good feelings. You know what I mean? Like when you're just curled up with a good book and you're kicking your feet and you're giggling and you're just fully immersed. I loved it, except for that little part that I didn't. But in this, we followed 2 characters, Liz and Wes. And Liz is an old soul, if you will. She bonded with her mom through their love of movies, and she lost her mom when she was like in 5th grade. So she grows up without her mom, but trying to keep her memory alive. And she kind of dresses very like old school, not like a 17-year-old would dress. And she's just kind of an old soul. And so she's dubbed like a little weird, a little different. But in the beginning of the book, we find out that her childhood crush, Michael, has moved back into town. And she is just ready to fall in love and experience her very own rom-com happy ending love story, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Like the rom-coms where you just know that it doesn't matter what happens. In the end, everybody's getting their happy ending and it's going to be amazing and perfect. That's the kind of love that she wants, and she will settle for nothing less. So she's convinced to win Michael over, but she doesn't know how to do it. So she enlists the help of her next door neighbor, the boy next door, if you will, Wes, who she's had a rocky relationship since they were kids. He was always picking on her. He literally would like always tease her, always get on her nerves, and that continued all on to high school. So they're not really friends, but they live next to each other. So he decides that he will help her try to get Michael to ask her to the prom, and in her head subsequently fall in love with her. So it is a really cute story. It is very predictable from the start. You know what's going on, who she's gonna end up with, and all that. But even though it was so predictable and so YA, I still loved most of it. So I ended up giving this 4 stars because, like I said, I had to dock the end because I know they're teenagers. I understand the miscommunication, but I'm not a teenager and miscommunication gets me. Speaking of miscommunication, I went on to read 3 romance books that have miscommunication to some degree in there. And man, it's like I'm in miscommunication hell. But it started off with The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. So I picked this up because, like I said, I'm doing a whole video about her catalog and I had never read them. So I needed to read these STEM-based books. I thought I was going to love all of them, but so far it's been a very mid experience. So I started with this one, which I heard was like probably going to be my least favorite. So I didn't have like the super high expectations that I had with like Bride and even Check and Mate. So this is about Olive, who is a 3rd-year PhD student. She is trying to look for someone to give her some funding so that she can finish her research and graduate and become a scientist, you know. Not only that, but she's also dealing with her best friend falling for her ex-boyfriend. And she's okay with this because she didn't even really like the ex-boyfriend. So she's trying to tell her best friend, like, go for it. Like, I don't like him. I literally don't like him. Go for it. But the best friend is a good best friend. She's like, that's so wrong. Like, girl code, all this. So she ends up telling her she's going to go on a date. And it's a total lie. So she goes out to like grab coffee or I don't know what. And she ends up grabbing the first guy she sees and kisses him because she sees the best friend coming to seemingly catch her in her non-existent date. And that guy happens to be a very famous, very disliked professor at her university, Adam Carlson. Adam Carlson is really hated. He's seemingly, there's just the worst. All the grad students hate him, but he's not really tied to her. He's like in a different department, so she knows of him, but she's never really had like contact with him. She's obviously mortified that she kissed a professor and he's looking at her like she just harassed the crap out of him because she did. And yeah, they enter a fake dating relationship because they both kind of benefit from it. So fake dating, I thought it was gonna be for me. It's Grumpy Sunshine, which I don't really care about. And it's supposed to be Raylo fan fiction. I don't even know what that means. I didn't see any Raylo-ness other than the fact that they look like the characters. But it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't amazing. And usually when there's fake dating, I think I'm gonna love it. I ended up giving this 3 stars though, because again, miscommunication just annoys me. Like when you spend a couple chapters in like an unhappy place just because they can't tell each other how they feel, it kind of annoys me. So 3 stars for this one. And then we have a book that I picked up because I thought it was going to be a really cute, short, quick read, and man, it freaking pissed me off. I was fuming during this book, and I was so mad because I really wanted to like it, because if you look on Goodreads, it is so highly rated. I was like, what is wrong with me? Because I am hating this. It is Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. Monaghan? Yeah. I was just enraged. I literally was like telling my husband how much I was hating the book as I was reading it. And what was pissing me off was that I kind of liked it and also kind of hated it. I don't know. So in this we follow a Romance Channel screenwriter, Nora Hamilton, who at the beginning of the book has a whole movie set crew coming to her house to film a Hollywood film. How did this happen? Nora, like I said, is a screenwriter, and she writes the best film of her career. And it's just too good for the Romance Channel. So it ends up getting picked up by Hollywood, and it's like a big budget thing. And it ends up being this huge movie with like the most famous leading man in Hollywood and a beautiful actress. And the funny thing is that this movie that she wrote is based off her life, because she just got dumped by her husband. He left her and her 2 children. They got a divorce, and she finds herself just relieved. And she kind of channeled everything into this film, and they're gonna film there for a couple days and then leave. But when everybody leaves, it wraps. She finds that the leading man, Leo, is still there. And she's like, okay, you can leave now. And he's like, I don't want to. How about I pay you $1,000 a day for you to let me stay here for a week? And she's like, absolutely not. But she does need the money because, like I said, she just got divorced and she's got a whole bunch of things going on. So she's like, fine, you can stay out back in my tea house and romance. But man, I was just annoyed because they went through this whole miscommunication phase, and it's a little short book. So they went through this whole thing just because they couldn't pick up the phone and call each other. They just went on assuming the worst for so long, and I was just getting so annoyed. So when we finally get the happy ending, I was just like, okay, great. Like, I'm just done with this. So yeah, this was the one that I was almost gonna DNF because I was getting enraged, and I pushed through, ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I really only pushed through because it was so super short. It was under 300 pages, so I don't know. The world seems to love it. I did not. And that is it. Those are the 9 books that I read in the month of March. I'm almost done with Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I have this much left, but we'll chat about it in that video that I told you about. Like I said, a very mid-month, but I am happy that I had a 5-star, and I did read some good books, some okay books, and only one book that enraged me, but I think that's pretty good. So as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you very soon with another one. Bye.